सर आवाज नाही येते.
एक मिनिट, आपण अजून सुरूच केलेलं नाहीये.
ओके सर.
Okay, then good afternoon to all of you. Today we will discuss the next thing, that is consumption and saving. That part we were left in the last lecture. But first of all, the students from online, the slide is visible all of you?
Yes sir.
Yes, sir.
So kindly I'm requesting to all of you, please mute yourself so that others will not be get disturbed. Okay. So today we are going to discuss about the next point that is consumption and saving. Basically the very basic and general definition or the meaning of consumption, that is the expenditure made by any household during the specific period on a final goods. In the last lecture we will discuss the meaning of final goods also with the help of wheat at the bakery product. Is this the wheat is the intermediary good and the bakery products are the final goods. Like the cotton is the intermediary goods and the cloths or the other final goods, other final things are the final goods or services. So in this way the consumption have their specific meaning, that the expenditure made by the households on the final goods. And then onwards we will discuss that the savings. What is meant by savings? It is a disposable income, which means a person have total income, and from that the person has to make a payment of different kind of taxes to the government, as well as the person may have some deductions from the total income or from the personal income. Deductions means like PF or the insurance, that policy premiums of insurance policies, or some kind of subscriptions, rents, and so on. So after deducting the deductions, all deductions from the personal income, we get the disposable income, and out of that the disposable income which is not consumed, it is called as a savings. So in the light of the meaning of these concepts, we will discuss the marginal propensity to consume as well as the marginal propensity to savings. I know that 4 to 5 slides we were discussed in this last lecture, but I want to clear again all concepts, because when we get the basic ideas and when we get the clear-cut idea about the basic things, then we will have a very well clarification on the marginal propensity to consume and marginal propensity to savings. So the next thing is the relationship between consumption, income, and savings. Very important thing, the relationship between consumption, income, and savings. Participants, please mute yourself. There is a specific relationship between these three variables. So what is the relationship? The income is equal to consumption plus savings. For example, if we consider the income of any person, that is 100 rupees, please close. If income is 100 rupees and the person made 80 rupees expenses as a consumption, which means the person have 20 rupees savings. Is this? So 80 plus 20 become their total income. The consumption function is related to consumption. And onwards, we will discuss the savings function that is related to savings. The consumption function states the relationship between consumption and income. The equation may be like that: consumption, it depends. We can explain the consumption function like that also. That equation states that the C stands for consumption and Y stands for the income or the yield. It shows that F stands for function. Function means the dependency, the relationship. The consumption is dependent on the income. That is the basic statement of consumption function. What is the basic statement? Consumption is dependent on income and there is a positive relationship. The is equal to sign shows that there is a positive relationship. Is it? Which means when the income increases, what is meant by positive relationship, or how the consumption is depends upon the income? For example, if the income of person increases, then obviously the consumption of that person also increases. Is this? And on the other hand, if the income of a person decreases, then the consumption also decreases. And there is a positive relationship, which means both variables are changed in the same direction. Both variables changed into same direction. Therefore, there is a equal relationship or positive relationship. If there is a transverse line on the is equal to sign, then it shows that there is no equal relationship between these two variables. But the consumption is depends upon Y, that is income, and there is a positive relationship. That is the consumption function. Are you get it? And the consumption function also narrates in this equation in the same way. Basically, the consumption divided into two categories. The consumption basically divides into two categories: autonomous and induced. Is this? Autonomous and induced consumption. Basically, the consumption depends upon these two types of consumptions. So I think in the last lecture we were get the clear-cut idea about autonomous and consumption, induced consumption. Autonomous means which is not dependent on income. Is it? If the income of any person is zero, then still the person has to do some expenses on their basic needs for the survival. Is it? And that consumption is called as a autonomous consumption, which is not dependent upon income. Autonomous means independent, independent freedom. And induced, second one is induced consumption. Induced consumption basically influenced by the income, which is heavily depends upon the total income. When the income of person increases, then consumption also increases. When the income of person decreases, then the consumption also decreases. That part of consumption is called as a induced consumption. Okay, so the consumption of the person is depends upon these two types of consumption. It is called also this is called also the consumption function. Okay, and I think in the last lecture we were discussed that example. If the consumption level is Y is equal to 1000 crore of any country, and if the consumption function is like that, then we get the total consumption is 700 crore. Is it? Which means the 0.5 means it is a marginal propensity to consume. In a nutshell, in a general manner, if the income of person increases by 1, then the person is ready to expense or ready to consume 0.5% from their income. That is called as a marginal propensity to consume. म्हणजे त्याचं उत्पन्न जर 1 ने वाढलं तर तो 0.5 एवढा खर्च करेल, हा त्याचा अर्थ. 0.5 म्हणजे काय? त्याची खर्च करण्याची प्रवृत्ती, तयारी. ठीक आहे. तर या आधारे आपण काल उदाहरण समजून घेतलं होतं की मग त्या देशाची कन्झम्पशन फंक्शन किती राहील? कन्झम्पशन, टोटल कन्झम्पशन 700 रुपीज. The consumption is depends upon the marginal propensity to consume. If he increases the marginal propensity to consume, then consumption also increases. If he decreases that marginal propensity to consume from 0.5 to 0.3 to 1, then the consumption also decreases. So in this way we can calculate the consumption of any country using that equation. I think that equation and that example is not mentioned in your book. Is it? का आहे बुक मध्ये नाहीये किंवा वेगळ्या पद्धतीने दिलेला असावं. ठीक आहे. So it is called as a consumption function. Then onwards we are needed to discuss about the basic and very important concepts, that is marginal propensity to consume and marginal propensity to savings. So how can we calculate these two? There is an equation for these two terms. Marginal propensity to consume means if the disposable income of any person changed, then the consumption of the person also changed. It is because the consumption depends upon the income. But which type of income? Disposable income, not the personal income. Is it? If the disposable income changed, then the consumption also changed for the any person. For example, if the disposable income increases, then what will happen? The consumption will increase. Is it? But what kind of change in made in the disposable income? According to the change in disposable income, the consumption the consumption of that person will change. If the disposable income changed by 10%, then the consumption may be changed by 5% or may be changed by 20%. It depends upon the habit of that person. It is. I'm not assured you that if the disposable income increased, I'm not assured you that if the disposable income is increased by 10%, then the consumption will increase by 5% or 10%. It may be increased more than 10% because it depends upon the habits of the person. Okay. Then onwards, the second thing is marginal propensity to consume. Savings. The savings is also depends upon the income. The saving function basically states, or we can narrate the savings function like that. Savings is depends upon Y. Savings are depends upon Y means when income increases, the savings also increases. Other hand, if the income decreases, the savings are also decreases, which means there is a equal relationship between these two terms. Okay, that sign shows that both variables are equal and change in both variable are equal. Okay, so the marginal propensity to savings means when the disposable income changed, then savings are also changed. For example, if the disposable income increased by 10%, then savings are also increased by 2%, 3%. But I'm assure you that if the disposable income changed by 10%, then savings cannot be changed by 20% or more than 10%. Are you getting? लक्षात येते का काय कसं कन्झम्पशन चेंज होऊ शकतं मोर दॅन 10%. म्हणजे एखाद्याकडनं कर्ज घेऊन पैसे घेऊन का पाहिजे पण खर्च करू शकतो जास्त. ठीक आहे, सेव्हिंग्स करू शकत नाही जास्त, होय की नाही? जेवढं 10% वाढली त्याच्यात 10% तो सेव्हिंग्स करू शकतो, काहीच खर्च करणार नाही, सगळ्याच्या सगळी सेव्हिंग्स करू शकतो. पण 10% पेक्षा जास्त सेव्हिंग्स तो करूच शकत नाही. समजतंय? So therefore, I am assured you that the disposable income, if the disposable income changed by a particular range, then the savings will be changed according to that range only. Okay. So this is लक्षात येते काय सांगतो ते काही डिफिकल्ट नाहीये मला तरी वाटतं. So I think in the last lecture I was told you that the one means the total income. One means the total income. MPC plus MPS means consumption plus savings. Consumption function plus savings function becomes the total income of the person. Is this that equation narrates that change in delta C means MPC, delta S means MPS. Okay, MPC plus MPS means delta Y or the Y. Is this? So this is very important thing according to very important thing in case of relationship between consumption income and savings. Okay. If we want to get, if we have a the value of MPS, then what will be the value for MPC? Is there anyone online students? If the value of MPS is 0.4%, then what will be the value of MPC? काय व्हॅल्यू राहील जर 0.4% जर एमपीएस ची व्हॅल्यू असेल तर एमपीसी ची व्हॅल्यू काय राहील 0.6. Is this the value of MPC will be 0.6 because the summation of all variables are 1. Is it? Yeah, 0.6. So in this way there is a relationship between consumption income and savings. So this table is in your book. The table also shows the relationship between savings, consumption and income. Here in the first column they have showcases us the disposable income that is increases from $800 to $1,000, then $2,000, sorry, $12,000, then $14,000, sorry, $1,400, $1,200. In this way the disposable income increases. Then what will happen? The change in disposable income, how much the income is changed at every stage? By $200. Is this from 1,000 to 1,1200? That is every stage. At the every stage, the income changed by only $200. There is a change in disposable income. Then what happened? The consumption function. The consumption function means here the person have the consumption function. When we calculate the values using consumption function equation, then we get these values. Okay, like MPC, if we MPC is 0.5% or MPC is 0.4% or MPC is 0.3%, then we get these values. The change in consumption means here the consumption is 1,000, then onwards income increases up to $1,200, then consumption also increases up to $1,160. Means the change in consumption is $160, which is same at every stage. It is example, it cannot be changed at every stage. It is not necessary to remain same, but according to simplification of the example, they have given us the same value. Okay. So then onwards, the savings. How they calculated the savings? If the change in consumption is 160, the change in income is 200, the consumption is 160. If we did this subtracts the consumption from total income, then we get the savings. Is this? Then 200 minus 160 becomes savings. So in this way, the savings values are also showcases in this table. So what is the change in savings? It is also remains same at the every stage. Is this? So in this way, we can enumerate that table, we can narrate that table, or we can explain that table in our exam also, which is not very difficult. Just showcase the change in income, then change in consumption, then change in savings and other things also. Okay, just remain the values in the constant sense or constant mode. Then, so this is the savings function. The next one thing is savings function. Savings function basically showcases the functional relationship between savings and national income or the income. We are talking about the national income. Is this? We are talking about the aggregate level. We are talking about the general economy, whole economy. So therefore, they have included the relationship between savings and national income. The savings means the savings made by the whole the person of any particular country or the individuals of particular country. So in this way, the savings are savings and national income. There is a great relationship between savings and national income. I have already told you that the savings are depends upon income. There is a positive relationship, or we can uh, elaborate the savings function in this way also. Is this? It is very simple. Then there is a relationship between savings and consumption, that if the income increases in this way from 1 crore, 100 crore to 200 crore, 200 to 300 crore, then consumption also increases in this way because the income is increases, but the change in consumption is less than change in income. Are you get it? If we look at the values in the second one column, which is showcases us the consumption, the change in consumption, is it? Then we get that the change in consumption at every stage is less than change in income. For example, if the change in income is at the second and third stage is 100 crore rupees, but here the change in consumption is only how much? 60 crore rupees. Is this? Here the change is 100. Here the consumption changed by only 60. In this way, we can elaborate that the change in consumption is less than, obviously every stage that it will be less than their income. Is this? Then according to the change in consumption, the savings also changed. Why here the savings are minus 80? Due to which type of consumption? We discussed two types of consumption: autonomous consumption and induced consumption. Because of the autonomous consumption. Is this? Because the savings, yeah, but this you already mentioned correctly. The income here is zero, but the person is needed to do, or the country requires to do the expenditure on their basic survival needs. So therefore, it becomes autonomous consumption, and due to that, the savings are in minus. The savings are minus 80. Then onwards, the income increases from 0 to 100, but still the consumption level is more than their income. So therefore, the savings becomes minus 40. Then here there is a equal relationship between consumption and income. The consumption is 200 and income also 200 crore rupees. Here, therefore, the savings are zero. But onwards, the country continues to increase their income. The country able to increase their income, like India. At the initial stage, we got an independence. At the initial stage, we are needed to increase our income because the consumption was more than our income. At that stage, we are not having any kind of foreign reserves as a savings with us. Is this? At that part we were discussed in the last lecture that we have a very strong platform of foreign reserves with us. now. And that stage is at this stage, but at the initial stage, which means in the 1947, we were in the minus. Savings are by the savings of our country was minus because the consumption was more than our income. But onwards, the country were started to develop their every kind of things, and therefore we are able to increase, or we are able to do the savings with the help of different kind of technological or any kind of upgradations. Is this so? In this way, the consumption pattern of the country changed, and according to that, the savings pattern of the country also gets changed. Okay, so here there is a, this is the savings function which depends upon the income. Savings depends upon income. That graph is showcases us that the savings curve, why it is negative, why it is showcases us a negative slope. Here SR is the negative. Which kind of consumption is responsible for making a savings negative? Autonomous. Is this the change in consumption is negative, so therefore the savings are negative. Here R point shows the saddle point or break even point. Saddle means equal, okay, or the break even point. Here the consumption and savings are same. This is the third one stage. Is this here the consumption and income are same, so therefore the savings are zero. So this is the R point. Then onwards, when income of any country increases, then the savings are also increases. Okay, over the period of time, the savings of the any country, the country is able to increase their savings. Okay, then the next thing is average propensity to savings or save. Then marginal propensity to save. How these two types are made in these concepts. Average propensity to save means the ratio of saving to the corresponding income level. A very simple manner. If the income of any person is 1,000 rupees, for example, we can calculate the APS. If the income of any person is 1,000 rupees per month, then what will happen? The person, if the person is able to consume or requires to able to save 500 rupees, which means the consumption of the person is 500 rupees, and therefore the person is able to save 500 rupees. Then what will be the value? What will be the value? 0.5. Is this? The value of APS will be 0.5. Okay. You get it? The average propensity to of savings will be 0.5. If we have a value of savings and income, then we can easily calculate the average or APS of the country. Then onwards, marginal propensity to savings. Marginal propensity to savings means the change in savings or the change in savings due to change in income. लक्षात ठेवा, मार्जिनल शब्द कुठेही आला म्हणजे इव्हन MBA 102 मध्ये मला नाही वाटत तिथे काही मार्जिनलचा संबंध येत असेल, पण MBA 103 मध्ये मार्जिनल हा शब्द कुठेही आला की समजायचं तिथं चेंज आहे. मग ती मार्जिनल रेव्हेन्यू असेल, मार्जिनल कॉस्ट असेल, मार्जिनल काय सेव्हिंग्ज असेल, मार्जिनल कन्झम्पशन असेल. मार्जिनल म्हटलं तर चेंज इन द पर्टिक्युलर कन्सेप्ट or particular variable and change in due to that particular variable into concern variable. So the marginal means the change, but in which concept or in which variable? The change in income, which leads to change in savings. Again, in the same with the help of that same equation, if here if we calculate that uh, that APS is means if the income of person is 1000 rupees and the consumption is 600 rupees, therefore the person is able to save there 400 rupees. So therefore the APS is 0.4%. Then in that case, if the income of that person income if the income of that person changed by 1000 rupees to 2000 rupees, and therefore the person is able to do the savings up to 800 rupees, then what will be the value of APS? What will be the value? 0.4. Is this 0.4? But it is the value of APS, average propensity to consume. But what will be the value of MPS? Here, the change in income is, but change in income is 1000 rupees and change in savings is 400. Is this? Then the value of MPS will 0.4%. Is this? If we consider that there is a 1000 rupees savings, then what will be the value? Sorry, 0.6. Is this? The MPS will be 0.6 because the MPC plus MPS is 1. Is this? Then 0.4 plus 0.6 becomes 1. Is this? So in this way, we can, if we put the values in that equation, then we get the MPS. MPS showcases us that the change in disposable income and which leads to change in savings. So with the help of these two types of equation, we can showcases or we can calculate that kind of table also. Is this? परत काही अडचण आहे? मला नाही वाटत पर्यंत काही अडचण असावी. आपण नॅशनल इन्कम अकाउंटिंग पाहिलेत. ऑनलाईन स्टुडंट्स, is there any doubt about consumption, savings or income? Okay, no problem. Okay, we have completed that point. Okay, so I think in the last lecture, in the previous lecture, we were left our one point, that is kinky demand curve. That part we will cover and we will stop. Okay. आपण मागच्या लेक्चरला हा पॉइंट डिस्कस करायचा आपला राहिलेला होता, किंकी डिमांड कर्व, कारण बऱ्याचदा प्रश्न येऊ शकतो त्यावरती. आणि हो, मी ग्रुपवर शेअर करतो पीपीटी. मी एकत्र सगळ्याच पीपीटी शेअर करणार आहे ग्रुपवरती. एकत्र सगळ्या शेअर केल्यात की तुम्हाला एकाच वेळेस अवेलेबल होतील, म्हणून मी आतापर्यंत जे एक शेअर केलं नाही. एकाच वेळेस मी शेअर करतो सगळ्याच. ठीक आहे. तर किंकी डिमांड कर्व हा पॉइंट आपला राहिलेला होता. बेसिकली आपल्याला डिमांड कर्व माहिती आहे कसं आहे. वी आर व्हेरी वेल नोन दॅट द नेचर ऑफ डिमांड कर्व. व्हॉट काइंड ऑफ द डिमांड कर्व or what is the nature of demand curve? What is the nature of demand curve? Online student, म्हणजे कसा असतो डिमांड मागणी वक्र कसा असतो? असं गोल असतो का, चौकोनी असतो का, मग कसा असतो? खालून वर जाणार असतो ना, खालून वर जाणार असतो का? फ्रॉम लेफ्ट टू राईट साइड स्लोपिंग अपवर्ड असतो का? ऑनलाईन स्टुडंट्स, स्लोपिंग अपवर्ड नसतो, खालून वर जाणारा नसतो. स्लोपिंग अपवर्ड नाही, स्लोपिंग डाउनवर्ड असतो. फ्रॉम लेफ्ट टू right side. Remember that whenever there is a negative relationship at every variable in the both variable, then the curves goes from left to right side downward. The always demand curve, or not only the demand curve, but whenever, why the demand curve goes from left to right side downward? Because of there is a negative relationship between the variables. Which are the variables? Price and demand. Is this how there is a negative relationship? If the price increases, then what happen? The demand get decreases. And if the price decreases, then what happen? Demand increases. There is a negative relationship between two variables. Whenever there is a two relationship, two variables showcases the negative relationship, then obviously the curve goes downward slope. So therefore, I want to clear that concept that the demand curve is always downward slope from left to right side. And remember that the curve starts from left side. There is no any confusion about the right or left. Every curve starts from left side. Whether it, and then the nature of curve depends upon the relationship between the variables. Okay, so the demand curve, but in a law of demand, we were discussed that in the law of demand, we were discussed that the curve goes continuously downward slopes. There is no any kind of change in the demand curve. It is in this way. The curve continuously goes downward slope. Okay. But in case of kinky demand curve, the kink means there is slight change in the demand curve. मराठी त्याला असं बाकदार म्हणतो आपण, वाकलेला. मागणी वक्र जो आहे तो वाकलेला असतो, थोडासा सरळ जात नाही. म्हणजे त्याच्यातलं हे अपग्रेडेशन म्हणूया आपण, ऍडव्हान्स म्हणूया. त्या डिमांड कर्व मध्ये अपग्रेडेशन केलेलं आहे. मग आता ही जी काही डिमांड कर्व बेंड होतो, आपण त्याला पण म्हणूया वाकतो, बाकदार होतो, बेंड होतो मध्येच, तर त्याला किंकी डिमांड कर्व म्हटलेला आहे. आणि तो का होतो हे आपल्याला पाहायचं आहे. पण याच्या आधी आपल्याला हे क्लिअर पाहिजे की आपण ही कन्सेप्ट डिओपॉली मार्केट मधली पाहत होतो, है की नाही. डिओपॉली मार्केट मध्ये आपण ही कन्सेप्ट पण पाहिली होती, कुर्नॉट मॉडेल. कुर्नॉट मॉडेल मध्ये आपण हे समजावून घेतलं होतं काय, की मार्केटमध्ये फक्त दोनच, डिओपॉली म्हटलं की दोन फर्म्स, they have considered that there are only two firms are performing in the market, and the two firms have the total demand for their product from O to D1. Is this? And we are also considered that every producer produces half product to the total demand for getting high profit. टोटल डिमांड जे आहे तेवढं प्रोडक्शन ते जाणीवपूर्वक करत नाही असं मला म्हणायचं आहे. त्या ज्या काही फर्म्स आहेत ते जाणीवपूर्वक ते प्रोडक्शन तेवढं करत नाही. म्हणजे काय, आपली प्रोडक्शन जेवढं कमी राहील तेवढी त्याची प्राइस जास्त ठेवता येते. हा मार्केटचा सेंटिमेंट आहे. and with the help of that sentiment, the firm produces only half of the total demand. That part we will discuss that if the firm A or the B performing in the any particular market, then firm A have the total demand from O to D1, but according to their policy, they were only produces O to A. That is the half of the total demand. Is this? So in this way, we will discuss that if that is the AR curve and that is MR curve. So in this way, the particular firm produces the total production from OACP, that is the area of total production of the firm A, and OP, that is the supply of that total production of the firm A. Is this? But onwards we will discuss that. Then according to the the market availability, the big firmware attracts towards the market because the market is also still the A and D1 market is available for B firm. Is this? Because the B firm knows that the A firm is only produces O to A and A to D1 market is still available. Is this? And then according to the B firm, the total demand is A to again assumption the B firm will not produce the total demand or total production. Again, the B firm will produce only A to B. Is it? That is the 50% of A to D1. Are you getting? Online student screen दिसते ना तुम्हाला सगळ्यांना? Okay. So in this way, the B firm will produce only 50% of the total demand, that is A to D1, and the production will be A to B. Again, the supply, what will be the total supply? When A firm produces the total production, then the total supply only O to A. But onwards, when the B firm entered, then what will be the total supply? O to B1. Sorry, O to B. When the supply of any production increases in the market, then what happens? The price of the particular commodity decreases. Is this? Therefore, the price at the initial stage, when only A firm performing in the market, therefore at that time the price was OP. But when B firm entered and they supplies the more production in the market, that is up to A to B. So the supply becomes OB. So therefore the price decreases from OP to OP1. Are you getting? So in this way, the firms are performing according to their opponent strategy. And in the duopoly market, the firms are heavily dependent on the strategy which are going to execute by the rival firms. ओके, हे मला क्लिअर करायचं होतं. परत मला माहिती मी क्लिअर केलेलं आहे, पण मला किंकी डिमांड कर सांगायला आवडेल का मला हे समजत नव्हतं, तर मी याच्यासाठी 2-3 दिवस वाया घालवले होते, म्हणजे मी कॉलेजमध्ये असताना. आणि मला हे इतकं क्लिअर झाल्यानंतर की मला असं वाटतं की मी सगळं सांगावं क्लिअर. ठीक आहे ना? म्हणून मला हे सांगायचं की किंकी डिमांड कर जेव्हा आपल्याला लक्षात घ्यायचंय तेव्हा आधी आपल्याला हे समजलं पाहिजे. ठीक आहे. आता 2 फर्म आहेत मार्केटमध्ये आणि ते 2 फर्म असताना काय होईल आणि का त्याला तो मागणी वक्र जो आहे तो बेंड का होतो आणि होतं असं ऍक्च्युअली होतं. आता काय होईल? फॉर एक्झाम्पल, फर्स्ट कंडिशन, when oligopolist, we have considered only there are 2 firms only, because we are talking about the duopoly, and duopoly is the next type of oligopoly. Oligopoly market means there are only few producers or sellers are available. Okay, and duopoly is the again the next segment of oligopoly market, which consider there are only 2 sellers are in the market. If when an oligopolist means duopolist raised their price, if we consider that the rival firm increases their price, it will lose its consumers. Is it? If the firm increases their price, then what will happen? The firm will lose their consumers. Other oligopolists would not follow them. Are you getting it? Because he wanted to acquire or attract that consumer towards them. Is this? So what happened? The price may affect more to the demand. If a firm increases the price very slightly, and due to that, if the consumers transform from A firm to B firm, so it shows that there is a more change in the demand of A firm. There is a more change in the demand of A firm due to the very slight change in the price. Are you getting it? And in the second one case, therefore, the demand becomes more elastic. We have discussed that part in the elasticity of demand. More elastic means the responsiveness of demand is more than the responsiveness in price, or the change in price is less than change in demand. So it is called as a more elastic demand. That is the first one condition. And if we consider the second one condition, when oligopolist reduces their price, if a firm reduces their price, then what will happen? In order to increase its demand in market, then other will follow the same. Are you get it? म्हणजे पहिल्यांदा ती एखाद्या फर्मने प्राइस वाढवली तर त्याची जी रायव्हल कंपनी आहे तिची प्राइस वाढवेलच असं नाहीये. बरोबर. दुसरी कंडिशन आपण जेव्हा पकडतो काय, ए फर्मने जर तिची प्राइस कमी केली तर दुसरी फर्म लगेचच तिची प्राइस कमी करते. कारण त्याला माहिती आहे हिनी फर्मने प्राइस कमी केलेली आहे, आपल्याला आपलं मार्केट कस्टमर जर टिकवायचे असतील तर आपल्याला प्राइस कमी करावे लागतील. आणि म्हणून त्याला कॉम्पिटिशनला किंवा स्ट्रॅटेजीला उत्तर म्हणून दुसरी कंपनी सुद्धा त्यांच्या मार्केटची प्रोडक्शन आहे त्याची प्राइस कमी करते. अशी दुसरी पण कंडिशन असते. सो देन व्हॉट विल हॅपन इन दॅट कंडिशन? द प्राइस मे अफेक्ट लेस टू द डिमांड. म्हणजे काय? एखाद्या फर्मने त्या दोन फर्म पैकी ए फर्मने प्राइस कमी केलेली आहे, तर त्याला प्रत्युत्तर म्हणून बी फर्मने सुद्धा प्राइस कमी केली. म्हणून ए फर्मने प्राइस कमी केल्यामुळे त्यांचे कस्टमर्स कमी होतील का? नाही होणार. डिमांड कमी होईल का? नाही होणार. का तर बी फर्मने सुद्धा प्राइस कमी केली आहे. मग आता दोघांना पण चॉईस आहे, कस्टमरला दोघांच्या पण याच्यात चॉईस आहे. पहिल्या कंडिशन मध्ये काय होत होतं? ए फर्मने प्राइस वाढवली म्हणून त्याचे कस्टमर सरळ शिफ्ट होत होते बी कडे. इथे मात्र ए ने प्राइस कमी केली म्हणून बी ने पण प्राइस कमी केली, म्हणून दोघांचे कस्टमर फारसे चेंज होणार नाही. द डिमांड विल नॉट चेंज अकॉर्डिंग टू द चेंज इन प्राइस. म्हणजे काय? इथे समजा त्यांनी प्राइस अगदी 50%च्या ऐवजी 80% कमी केली, तर व्हायला काय पाहिजे होतं? बी चे फर्म कस्टमर्स वाढायला पाहिजे होते. पण बी काय करते? यांनी 80% कमी केली तर बी सुद्धा 80% कमी करते प्रत्युत्तर म्हणून. ठेव करावंच लागणार आहे. आणि म्हणून काय होतं मग? दोघांची जी डिमांड आहे ती फारशी चेंज होत नाही. इवन दे चेंज द प्राइस बाय 80%. मी काय सांगतो लक्षात येत? इथे प्राइस त्यांनी 80% चेंज केली आहे, म्हणजे खूप चेंज केली आहे, कमी केली आहे. तरी पण डिमांड फारशी बदलत नाही. का तर रायव्हल जी काही फर्म आहे तिने सुद्धा तेवढीच प्राइस चेंज केली आहे. म्हणजे डिमांड मध्ये जे काही चेंज आहे तो कमी असतो. प्राइस मधला चेंज जास्त आहे 80%, तरी पण डिमांड थोडीफार इकडे तिकडे होईल, 5-10% इकडे तिकडे होईल, पण जास्त बदलत नाही. सो देअरफॉर द डिमांड बिकम्स लेस इलास्टिक. Are you getting it? The change in demand are very less according to the change in price in the second one condition. But in the first condition, the change in demand are greater than change in price. दोन्हींमधला फरक लक्षात येते का? दोन कंडिशन आहेत त्या. As a result, oligopoly or the duopoly market faced the kinky demand curve. Then how the demand curve get kinked? Here there is a change in the demand curve. Here, this is the D, or it is also called as a AR curve, average revenue curve. Okay. So this D is the demand curve which kinked in that point. इथे आपल्याला तो बागदार झालेला दिसतो. म्हणजे काय, याचे आता दोन सेगमेंट आहेत. या डिमांड कर्वचे दोन सेगमेंट आहेत. एक मोर इलास्टिक आहे आणि अर्धा सेगमेंट लेस इलास्टिक आहे. लक्षात येते. आता मोर इलास्टिक म्हणजे डिमांड इलास्टिक फॉर डिमांड इज इलास्टिक फॉर प्राइस इन्क्रीजेस. म्हणजे एखाद्या फर्मने प्राइस वाढवली तर दुसरी फर्म वाढवते का? दुसरी फर्म वाढवत नाहीये. म्हणून काय होतंय मग, the change in demand are more than change in price. So therefore, the demand curve at the certain point is more elastic. म्हणजे ह्या पॉइंट पर्यंत जो डिमांड कर्व येतो इथून इथपर्यंत, तर हा मोर इलास्टिक आहे. मोर इलास्टिक म्हणजे जो एक्स ऍक्सिसला पॅरलल होत जातो. बऱ्यापैकी पॅरलल असतो, खूप नाही पण बऱ्यापैकी पॅरलल असतो. ठीक आहे. आणि सर्टन जी काही स्ट्रॅटेजी आहे, दुसरी कंडिशन आपण म्हटलो, दुसऱ्या कंडिशन मध्ये काय म्हटलं आपण, की ए फर्मने प्राइस कमी केली आहे म्हणून त्याला अपोनंट जी कंपनी आहे तिने सुद्धा प्राइस कमी केली आहे. या कंडिशन मध्ये काय होतं, लेस इलास्टिक डिमांड. द चेंज इन डिमांड आर लेस. सो देयरफॉर द डिमांड कर्व फ्रॉम सर्टन पॉइंट बिकम्स लेस इलास्टिक. इज दिस फ्रॉम दैट पॉइंट टू in this point the demand curve becomes less elastic. In the same situation, in the same market condition, the demand curve shows the two situations, more elastic and less elastic. So and therefore the demand curve becomes kinked. म्हणूनच मागणी वक्राला बाक येतो असं यांचं म्हणणं आहे, कुर्नोटचं म्हणणं आहे. ठीक आहे. लक्षात आलंय का ही कन्सेप्ट, किंकी डिमांड कर्व म्हणजे काय आणि कशी? काही अडचण आहे ऑनलाईन स्टुडंट्स? इज देयर एनी डाउट अबाउट किंकी डिमांड कर्व और एनीथिंग? ठीक आहे, 1-2 मिनिटात परत सांगतो. गणेश राहुल सर, इथे दोनच फर्म आहे आपण कन्सिडर केलेला आहे. कुर्नॉट मॉडेल मध्ये दोनच फर्म आहे. दोन्ही फर्मला मार्केटमध्ये यायचं असताना ए फर्म जी आहे तिला टोटल डिमांड अवेलेबल आहे OD1, पण ती तिच्या मार्केटमध्ये प्रॉफिट अर्न करण्यासाठी टोटल डिमांड आहे तेवढी प्रोडक्शन करत नाही. समजा ती करते 50% OA एवढंच. आणि मग बी फर्मला मार्केट अवेलेबल आहे AD1, पण AD1 एवढं मार्केट अवेलेबल असताना सुद्धा बी फर्म फक्त AB एवढंच प्रोडक्शन करते 50%. का तर त्यांना हायर प्रॉफिट कमवायचं असतं. अशा परिस्थितीमध्ये फक्त डिओपॉली मध्ये आपण दोनच फर्म कन्सिडर केलेले आहेत. मग दोन फर्म ज्या आहेत त्या एकमेकांच्या रायव्हल आहेत, कॉम्पिटिटर आहेत. ठीक आहे. त्यांच्यामध्ये कोलिजिव्हनेस नाहीये. कोलिजिव्हनेस म्हणजे कोऑपरेशन नाहीये, ते एकमेकांच्या रायव्हल आहेत. मग रायव्हल असताना पहिली कंडिशन आपण कन्सिडर केलेली की समजा ए फर्मने प्राइस इन्क्रीज केली. ठीक आहे. तर ए फर्मने प्राइस इन्क्रीज केल्यानंतर दुसरी फर्म प्राइस इन्क्रीज करेल का? तर नाही करणार. का तर तिला माहिती आहे यांनी ह्या फर्मने प्राइस इन्क्रीज केली तर तिचे कस्टमर कमी होऊन ते आपल्याकडे येतील. मग आपल्याकडे आले तर याचा अर्थ त्या ए फर्मची जी काही डिमांड आहे ती खूप चेंज होईल, ड्रास्टिकली चेंज होईल. का तर प्राइस मध्ये स्लाइटली चेंज केला आहे म्हणून. मग अशा परिस्थितीमध्ये जो काही डिमांड कर्व आहे तो मोर इलास्टिक होतो. मोर इलास्टिक डिमांड कर्व म्हणजे त्याच्यात प्राइस मध्ये होणारा चेंज पेक्षा डिमांड मध्ये होणारा चेंज जास्त असतो. द कस्टमर विल शिफ्ट टुवर्ड्स द बी फर्म. व्हाय? बिकॉज द ए फर्म इन्क्रीजेस देअर प्राइस. देन सेकंड वन कंडिशन आपण कन्सिडर केली काय, की समजा ए फर्मने प्राइस कमी केली तर दुसरी फर्म सुद्धा प्राइस कमी करेल. का तर तिला माहिती आहे आपण जर प्राइस कमी केली नाही तर आपले कस्टमर कमी होतील. आणि म्हणून दोघी पण फर्म प्राइस कमी करतात. याच्यामुळे दोघांच्याही डिमांड मध्ये फारसा फरक पडत नाही. आणि दोघांच्या डिमांड मध्ये फारसा फरक पडत नसेल, प्राइस कितीही चेंज केली तरी पण डिमांड चेंज होत नाही. म्हणून काय होतं, डिमांड जी आहे ती लेस इलास्टिक होते. इलास्टिक म्हणजे अ व्हेरी लेस चेंज. आणि म्हणून या दोन्ही कंडिशन मार्केटमध्ये होतात, निर्माण होतात. आणि म्हणून जो काही डिमांड कर्व आहे, टोटल डिमांड कर्व ऑफ बोथ मार्केट फर्म्स बिकम्स किंकी. म्हणजे ह्या पॉइंट पासून तर ह्या पॉइंट पर्यंत डिमांड जी आहे ती मोर इलास्टिक असते, म्हणजे पहिल्या कंडिशनला कन्सिडर करून. ही जी पहिली कंडिशन आहे त्या कंडिशन नुसार हा कर्व इथून तर ह्या पॉइंट पर्यंत राहतो. ठीक आहे. आणि जी दुसरी कंडिशन आपण म्हटलंय ही की एका कंपनीने आपली प्राइस कमी केली तर दुसरी सुद्धा कमी करेल, म्हणून जो काही डिमांड मधला चेंज आहे तो फारसा होत नाही, म्हणून डिमांड कर्व हा लेस इलास्टिक होतो ह्या पॉइंट पासून ह्या पॉइंट पर्यंत. ठीक आहे. तर अशा प्रकारे हा जो काही टोटल डिमांड कर्व आहे तो इथे बाकदार होतो, तो वाकतो. हम्म. तर अशा प्रकारे हा किंग डिमांड कर्व आहे तो मागच्या वेळी मला तरी वाटतं राहिला होता. ठीक आहे. ऑनलाईन स्टुडंट्स थांबूया आपण आता, काही डाऊट नसेल तर. ठीक आहे. थँक्यू. तुम्हाला काही डाऊट्स? सगळं समजतंय का? ठीक आहे.